When was the last time you stumbled onto a great challenge but felt totally paralysed and unable to start? When did you last progress through a project only to realise a problem wasn't really worth solving at all? Hi, I'm Tom Jepson. I'm a UX designer, I'm a workshop facilitator, and I'm a virtual collaboration advocate. I've made a career out of poking into the weeds of wicked problems for expert businesses, ensuring they're on the right track to solve the challenge that their customers really have, not just the ones they think their customers have. This talk is all about breaking down preconceptions and misconceptions around design thinking and how it's used. We'll talk about each phase of a design thinking methodology and equip you with the means to explore ideas further and reach past possible restrictions in your thinking. It's all about helping you find the right solution to the right problem. So what is design thinking? While we could spend the foreseeable future discussing the intricacies of design thinking's definition, I'd like to nip that in the bud. Design thinking as we understand it today is a creative problem-solving approach that designers use to create new value and a positive impact around a given scenario. It's a method or series of methods we can turn to when there's no clear-cut solution to a problem. Design thinking is human-centric. Its emphasis is on improving the situation of people through the experiences they have, an experience being the way a person feels and thinks while they're engaged in an activity. Design thinking gives you the knowledge to help you deliver the future a customer or user really wants to inhabit. It creates new value in the solutions you create, since the problems you're working on are the needs of real people. But what about the things that design thinking isn't? Design thinking is not just for designers. Now, although the connotations of design paints a picture of scarf-wearing, espresso-drinking hipsters sat with their MacBooks in lush cafes, pontificating over what the ideal user wants from their latest mobile app, design thinking really isn't only the realm of the designer. Design thinking is a method, it's a mindset, it's a toolkit to break away from a fixed frame and focus on the needs of real people. Anyone can use it. Design thinking is also not a linear process. While there are distinct phases in which you can conduct specific activities, jumping between the phases and modes of thinking to continually update your learning and understanding can be the key to succeeding in a design thinking-led project. Before we head forward into the practicalities of design thinking and how we can use it in our work, we should take a brief step into the past. As with all things, it can be beneficial or maybe just interesting to learn where important advances within our industry have come from. I'd like to share with you a whistle-stop history of design thinking and its origins. In the early 1960s, the technologists of the day sought to understand better how design really worked. They were looking to apply processes and methods to scientize design as they knew it. Towards the end of the decade, design theorist Horst Rittel began to talk about wicked problems and the aspects of problem solving in design. These complex, multi-dimensional problems did not lend themselves to easy judgments of right or wrong, true or false. They required collaboration and an understanding of human need and nature to solve. The complex design challenges began quickly to influence the design practitioners of the time, and now design thinking has wicked problems at its heart. During the 70s, computer scientist and Nobel Prize laureate Herbert A. Simon, whose work focused on artificial intelligence and exploring the synthesis of human thought, discussed and used some of what we now know as the core tenets of design thinking in his work. Prototyping and iterating through learning became cornerstones of his practice. In the 80s, it led to further explorations and development and understanding of design as a process. Notable figures such as Nigel Cross and Brian Lawson pulled from adjacent fields of specialism, bringing the process and structure to inform the work of designers. Heading into the 90s and what we know of design thinking today, change-making group IDEO and the associated Stanford D School popularized design thinking in their practices and began formalizing paths for others to follow. The D School has made the development, teaching and implementation of design thinking one of its central goals since its inception. These establishments have helped build on, codify and make accessible design thinking with terminology and toolkits. It's this action that is driving design thinking into a commonplace among businesses worldwide. We have got, today, a structured approach to combine the human, technological and strategic needs of our time. Now, the design thinking process, our non-linear collection of methods, is built upon 5 distinct areas. Empathise, where we head out to meet people in the real world and learn firsthand what matters to them. Definition, where we take the information gathered from the people with whom we are concerned and synthesize it into insights and learnings. It's here that we truly begin to define our problem. We have ideation, where we use the insights and understanding from our problem definition to create ideas and potentially valuable solutions. Prototyping seeks to prioritize the most appropriate potential solutions and transform them into something which can be used to gather additional information and insight. Lastly, we want to test our prototypes. Here we want to demonstrate our thinking and, in essence, learn how far off the mark we are. We'll use what we learn here to deepen our understanding of the problem space and inform further developments to our ideas. It's absolutely possible to work through each of these steps, however, none should be treated in a silo. Honestly, the lines can be pretty blurry. For example, your ideation and prototyping might teach you something new about your audience. You'll learn something which can deepen the understanding of your problem space, helping you create an even more valuable solution. Every project started with a design thinking mindset begins with people. To create something truly valuable, we want to find out about the people behind the user of our product or service. Every decision we make on this journey links back directly to human experiences, wants, and needs. You might have called this design discovery, the discovery phase, or user research. Whatever name you give it, our goal here is to set aside our assumptions, learn, and set ourselves up to work with real insights. When we talk about getting out there and finding out what people both want and need, we're talking about observation. We're watching what people are doing, how they're interacting, how they behave in their space, how they use little workarounds to achieve an end which matters to them. An important skill to remember here is going into any conversation or observation with fresh eyes and a beginner's mindset. Whatever you think you know, you don't. Set aside all of those assumptions and get ready to learn. So, how might we approach this empathetic observation phase of our design thinking journey? There are a few methods we can use. One of the first things you're going to be doing, likely before you do anything else, is talking to people. Everything begins with a conversation. You might try asking questions using what and why and how as a starting point. What is this person doing? What challenges are they facing while they're doing it? Why are they doing that thing and why is it challenging? This is the perfect opportunity to dig a little deeper with a simple yet effective tool called the 5 whys. Asking why questions 5 times in succession can lead you to insights that you might not uncover with a regular surface level chat. Talk about specific topics and pinpoint moments that really affect the person with whom you're having this conversation. Look to find the little surprises that motivate them or uncover particular emotions that might not be apparent on the surface. Understanding how someone feels about something is just as important as what they do and how they do it. Now, a picture can be worth 1,000 words. Documenting someone's experience visually can help you tell a story and uncover hidden depth to someone's behaviour. It's also a great way to share your knowledge with your collaborators. is something you can do yourself, recording an experience from the outside in. Alternatively, you could hand over the camera to the person you're studying and have them record it for you. You'll have two complementary perspectives here. If you ask someone else to do it, ask them to be really specific and share as much of the nuance of their day as they can. There are always ways which we can go one step further with our research. While we can never truly experience the experience of another, we can create an analogue for it and put ourselves into their situation. By immersing yourself in the environment or tasks of another person, you can begin to get a feel for what it's really like to experience the challenges firsthand. Tools like accessibility goggles can help you simulate vision deficiency when you're testing, for example, a new website or an app. Whatever you do, it gives you the opportunity to look back and say, hey, remember when we tried being this person? How might that help us now? Two really important considerations for your empathizing and early research are time and budget. How much of this work are you able to do up front? Do you have available funding to get out there and converse with people and experience their lives firsthand? Whatever you do, remember that the work you put in now will be directly impactful to the problems you frame and the solutions you create. Planning your studies to make the best use of your time, budget, and the time of the people you're studying will affect the work you can do well later. When you reach the end of this phase, you'll have begun to build a bank of research and fact-based material which can be carried forward. I'd hope too that you have started to develop a connection with the people you're looking to serve. Now we've collected research and insights from people in the field who have real problems, what are we going to do with those? Let's have a look at how we define a problem. Once you've gathered the information and real-world data that you need to get going, it's time to explore. This phase of definition is where you begin putting together the findings from your research. You're looking to organise, interpret, and make sense of this sea of information to find common themes, useful insights, and, most importantly, the challenges which need to be solved. This phase of design thinking is a perfect opportunity for teams to collaborate, interpreting the data together, and share back any individual interpretations and insights. Getting a diverse range of perspectives and viewpoints is really important here to avoid singular tracks of thinking and biased problem finding. Our next goal as we work through the definitions in our data is to state the core problems that have been uncovered. You're going to use this knowledge to frame your challenge as a problem statement. A problem statement is a concise summary which clearly communicates the needs of your audience and gives you a place from which you can begin to take action. This statement is human-centered. It doubles down on the people from your research and the problems they're facing. Now, it is broad enough to allow for a really wide range of thought processes and ideation, yet it's narrow enough to be manageable. It's not feasible to think we could change the world with a single problem statement. Now, there are myriad methods out there for synthesizing data. Here are a few common approaches which might help kickstart your adventures in definition. Affinity mapping or clustering is a way to group your information freely and flexibly to discover associations between disparate topics. It's also a perfect collaborative activity. Team members might take individual items and order them into themes or like content groups. It's a means of diverging and breaking apart your assumptions. Again, this is where a diverse team can be really helpful. Once you have your groups of insights, you and your team can begin to highlight potential prospects for ideation, converging on the themes and most valuable information. Another great activity is empathy mapping. Naturally, there's a canvas for this. Using the data gathered from your interviews and empathizing activities, shape a picture of the person you're looking to serve. You'll likely have many sources to draw from. Capturing what people did and what they said can be a relatively straightforward activity. You'll have the documentary evidence to support some quick decisions. However, bringing together people's thoughts and feelings will require a little more attention. Both of these aspects will be based in your observations of behaviour, responses to activities, and more subtle cues like body language and tone of voice. Take the time here to paint a detailed picture of the person you're serving. Once you have grouped your information into insights, have a clear picture of the person you're serving, and have written a problem statement, you might want to look at ways you could begin to start solving the problem. You're not looking for ideas for solutions, but questions to spark some ideas on aspects of the problem. For this, we can use how might we questions. These how might we questions should be broad enough for you to create a wide range of solutions, but narrow enough so you can dive in and create something specific when you want to. Let's say we're exploring the use of electronic devices in the home. Some examples of how might we's might be: how might we encourage kids to put down their phones and go outside? How might we make gadget time at home more social? When we get to the end of a phase of definition, we're looking to come away with a human-centered problem statement driven by our research, and maybe a series of how might we questions or insight statements to spark some ideas and creative ideation. As we enter the third phase of the design thinking process, we're equipped with a deep understanding of the people we're looking to serve and a refined, focused, challenge-driven, firmly by human needs. Taking these insights, we're aiming to create potential solutions which will not only solve the problems we've identified, but ones which will add true value and enhance the experiences people have. Ideation, in all its forms, is about thinking freely and expanding on the problem at hand. It's divergent thinking, an opportunity to suspend the disbelief and really push the boundaries of our thinking. Ask yourself, what would the ideal solution look like for this challenge? At this point in our process, we are not looking for good ideas, reasonable ideas, rational ideas, or even viable ideas. We just want ideas. The goal for every ideation session is to generate quantities which you can work through later. Our prototyping and testing is the time to work out if the ideas are any good or not. The message is definitely quantity over quality. Ideation sessions are an opportunity for visual thinking. Get stuck in. Mock up a journey on a whiteboard, use sticky notes to wireframe a series of app screens, draw a storyboard, create a brief script to act out a scenario. You're looking to communicate your idea to your collaborators. After all, ideation is a team sport. Once you have a quantity of divergent ideas, it's worth taking time to share and work through them with your team. Here you're converging on the solutions you might think might be worth exploring further, maybe iterating over a few of the best ones. Remember this: whenever you're making decisions, seek to understand an idea, make a decision quickly, and move on. It's good to have all the ideas, however, ideas are cheap. You're looking for possible solutions which will bring the most value to the recipient of the solution, not win an award for having the best idea. There are literally hundreds of activities and methods you can use to generate ideas, either alone or collaboratively. You can choose methods with which you're comfortable, or if you're feeling daring and ready to go outside your comfort zone, use new methods which challenge your thinking and give you the chance to come up with some really radical solutions. One easy ideation method is the 4-part sketch. It's something you can do alone or with other people. You don't need to use all 4 steps either, if you don't want to. Here's a quick summary of the 4-part sketch method. Step 1. Review. You're going to take the time to review your problem statement so you have it front of mind, and make a note of any insights or challenging questions which spark thoughts. Take the time to gather up pieces of information which will help you later. Step 2. Scribbles. Like free association writing, grab a piece of paper and start scribbling. Throw any thoughts, ideas, words, statements at a blank page to build up a bank of very, very rough concepts which you can refine later. Neatness is the last thing on your mind here, as long as you know what the scribbles mean. Step 3. Crazy Eights. Now, this is one of my personal favourite activities to use when moving through an idea at speed. It's a way to explore a single idea more deeply without worrying about getting it right or stopping to get stuck in the weeds. Take a sheet of A4 paper and fold it into 8. Now, picking one idea from your scribble sheet, you're going to use this folded A4 page and work through 8 separate iterations of the idea. Take 1 minute at most for each iteration. If you want, you can do this a couple of times, either to get out more iterations for different ideas, or to maybe iterate on an idea which came out of the initial iteration. Step 4. 3-part solution. Now, this is where you can get into the weeds. Taking one idea from your Crazy Eights sheet, you're going to work through a 3-part solution sketch which demonstrates how someone might use your solution to solve their problem. Focus on the core of your idea. Extra details are not needed here, and look to communicate the specific points which will make your solution a success. You can draw it, you can write it, you can act it out and video it. It's up to you. If you're collaborating on your ideation, and I really hope you are, you'll be sharing the 3-part solution for review, so make sure that it's telling a great story. Now, when we've reached the end of our ideation, we expect to have amassed a really large collection of ideas, some refined, some not, which could be explored in a testable prototype. We're going to be ready to review all the ideas and prioritize them, bringing out the best ones to be turned into prototypes and tested with real people. Prototyping, the 4th phase in our design thinking journey, is where we get practical. The goal of prototyping is to translate the best fit ideas into quick, cheap, focused models which can be tested, validated, or consigned to the almost ran shelf. We want to get a better understanding about what is possible within the idea being tested. Now is the time for experimentation. Agreeing on what to prototype will come down to a consensus with your collaborators on which idea meets the best fit criteria. Which ideas will help the user achieve their goal with the least amount of friction? Which ideas deliver additional value and may significantly improve someone's experience as you carry out their tasks? Which ideas are you not sure about but think might be worth a look, if only to rule them out completely? When you are putting together your prototype, you're looking to demonstrate the solution to the problem. Clarity is key. Since you're only looking to highlight the core concepts that are critical to the solution, extra details and steps in a journey are not strictly necessary. Don't add fluff where it's not needed. Additionally, think about the fidelity of your prototype, how refined or produced it is. It should be appropriate to the phase in the process where you are. If your idea is still in the early stages, there's really no need to put together a fully working model when a basic paper sketch will do. 9 times out of 10, the prototype does not need to be pretty to highlight your intent. Lastly, try not to add new ideas before you explore a prototype for the first time. You're testing the idea you've already come up with based on your empathizing, definition and ideation. If you go to add new stuff before you know the original idea's work, you could end up never knowing. Prototyping well takes practice, and the more you do, the more experienced you'll get, and the more you'll know about what works and what doesn't when it comes to sharing an idea. Once you're on the road with your prototypes, share them with your team and other people in the business. Test the water. Remember how we said previously that design thinking isn't a linear process and you can happily jump between phases when you learn things to update your thinking? Some early conversations around your prototyped ideas can inform your testing direction and give you some notes for early iteration. You never know what you'll learn until you begin. Since you know your audience, your problem and your idea, you'll have a good idea on the factors you want to test or measure with the prototype. Keep those factors in mind when creating your prototype and find a means that will allow a fair, accurate test and highlights your idea in the best possible way. As with ideation activities, there are many methods for prototyping. Your context is everything here. Think about what you're trying to achieve with both your idea and your prototype, and use a method which will deliver against that. If you're working in the digital space, maybe on an app or a website idea, do you want to use a paper or digital visualization to test with? How detailed or high fidelity do you need to make it? Is a code prototype needed, or will some wireframe printouts do? When you reach the end of your prototyping phase, you're looking to have concepts ready to test with your audience. Make sure these prototypes are clear, concise, and communicate exactly what you need to solve the problem in hand. You'll likely have run the prototype past someone else too, just to make sure it's clear. You'll have too a direction for testing. You'll no doubt have thought about what you want to achieve with your tests and why, while you're building out the how with your prototype. The final phase of any design thinking process is testing. It is the culmination of the work you've put in, and it's time to put all of your ideas through their paces. Through testing your prototype, you'll come to understand how people perceive your ideas and how well it fits to solve their problem. User testing will gain you first-hand experience into how people engage with the product or service, how they behave, how they think. You'll likely unearth some of the unknowns in your thinking and will be able to update your learning. Remember that non-linear process? When you run a user test, understanding what you want to gain, the outcome of the test, is paramount to your idea's success or failure, depending on how people react to it. You're finding out what works and what doesn't, and you can use the test's outcome to help you refine your ideas, ideate further, and test again if you need to. There are many methods you can use depending on what you're looking to achieve. You could be exploring behaviours and attitudes towards a prototype, or looking for data-focused, qualitative and quantitative outcomes. Each method has its benefits and shortcomings. There really isn't a one-size-fits-all approach for any given project. Let's take a quick look at a reasonably easy, low-cost user testing method which you could take straight into your next project. Guerrilla testing. No, not that kind of guerrilla. Guerrilla testing is a light, lean form of user testing. It's reasonably informal and takes little preparation. It's also low cost and will gather some real-world, direct from a human feedback. With any guerrilla test, you'll be heading out to a public place where you've identified members of your target audience, and you're going to talk to people about your prototype. You'll be picking your participants randomly from whoever is at the venue. Hopefully, you'll find a good breadth of people to choose from. Guerrilla testing is great for when you're early in your project. You're not fixed so firmly to any given track that critical feedback will cause you headaches. It's perfect for validating an idea, finding out if you're on the right track or not. You'll be testing things like messaging on a web page or service flow for an online bank. Now, you are more than likely to gain direct personal opinions and emotional responses to a prototype than anything scientific or distinctly measurable. This, for now, is okay. If you need that kind of input, a different kind of user testing, something much more controlled, would be required. Remember to be clear and concise with the things you're asking people to do. If you recall, we talked about keeping your prototype focused to the core concept or process. The same goes for the testing. Keep it simple and lean, and not so challenging that someone might turn over a table in frustration. You've already identified what you'd like to learn, so make sure your testing process is in line with that. When you've completed a user test, you're going to have records of results and feedback, and data which you can refine and turn into insights. You're going to be going back to a period of definition while you explore this wealth of newfound knowledge, ready to iterate on your idea and prototype. After all that, our 5 phases of design thinking, where have we arrived? We've researched, questioned, and dug into the weeds with our audience in the Empathise phase. We've explored our data, found themes and insights, and defined a problem statement in the definition phase. We've translated the problem statement into wild, far-reaching ideas and solution concepts in the ideation phase. We've transformed our ideas into something testable in the prototyping phase. Lastly, we have tested our prototype and learned how the ideas stand up against scrutiny from our users in the testing phase. This journey has given us knowledge and insight to move forwards in solving our problem and adding real value for the people whom it affects. We're one step closer to truly enhancing their experience. By using design thinking methods, we've acted on our desire to start on the right foot, remove our assumptions, and conduct our work in a human-centric way. If you only take away 3 things. Design thinking is not and does not need to be a linear process. You can hop around between phases as you learn, updating your insights and giving yourself the best chance of designing a high-value solution. Allow yourself time to learn and explore. If you need to do more ideation after you've learned something new, do it. If your thinking and understanding on what people really need has evolved, don't be afraid to go back and iterate on the problem statement. Do what you need to do to get you to the best end result, finding and understanding the right problem to solve, creating the most appropriate, validated solution to solve it.